So let's talk about crafting or making, creating for money versus creating for enjoyment and whether or not those two can intersect. Hi, I'm Shira, and welcome to the What She Making podcast. So here's an overview just to start of my creative career. So early 2000s. Now, let's go back. I've always been a kid that make things. Like if we were in a group project together in school, I'm gonna volunteer to do the visual part, like the visual display, and you're gonna want me to do that because I'm gonna knock it out of the park. I love that part. Any group project I was in, like yes, we want Shira, and yes, can you do the visuals? No problem, got you, because that's gonna take us. That's gonna carry us. So I've always been creative, crafty kid. In the early 2000s, I decided to, for the first time, make it a little more official. And I began to collect samples of designer fabrics and even had a connect with someone who worked at a place that made things officially like an actual business, like some kind of interior design business, maybe. I can't remember the details, but however it was, they had like trash bags full of scraps and offcuts that they couldn't use for any of their projects. So I collected these from them and some other sources and began to make these kind of patchwork throw pillows. And I called the business Charm Life Interiors. So I like kind of built up my inventory by making a bunch of stuff as one would do in a creative business in the early 2000s. And I signed up for my first, I believe it was like a home and garden festival in a pretty nice part of the city. So I like tried to research pricing and really like thought that I kind of had a handle on things and packed everything up, got a friend to help me, went to this home and garden festival, set everything up very beautifully, and fully expected to sell out. Was even worried about like, oh, am I going to have enough change for people buying things in cash? Like this is before think back, there was no like Square card reader or Venmo or like any of these things that we're so used to using now. So I'm like really worried about that because I know I'm going to sell out because this stuff is beautiful, and did not sell a thing. Not a single item, y'all. Nothing. So I was pretty dejected. I did a couple of other shows, brought my prices down a whole lot. I did have one show in particular where I sold most of what I had, but by then my prices were so rock bottom that I just barely broke even. So I quickly became disillusioned with that business. Did not continue Charm Life Interiors. The next thing I did, I believe, was Girlified Gear. So in that business, I would take men's shirts and I made these ruffled up collars with them. So like a fun little like winter or fall sort of lightweight scarf. So I would make scarves out of men's shirts, or I would take men's shirts and just make any kind of like girly accessory. I also made purses that were reversible, that I screen printed on. So I would screen print like a silhouette of a cameo. I was also hand stitching portraits. Y'all, it was getting deep. I would hand stitch portraits on some of my purses. Like I did two different style purses. One was like a sack bag, and that would have like a ruffle down the side that I had made with a man's shirt, and it would have a silk screen on like next to the ruffle. And I did like these kind of messenger bags that were also reversible that I would stitch a portrait. So like a Jackie O portrait or Marilyn Monroe, like all these kind of iconic sort of figures portraits. So I had like used friends as models, hired a little photographer, had all kinds of little photo shoots for Girlified Gear, did a ton of craft shows, but still like could not quite get past like would make a small profit, but didn't really take off. So I let that one go. The next business was I saw just a short video that mentioned that you could make lipstick from crayons. I was like, oh, that's such an interesting idea because crayons are non-toxic. So I didn't like the recipe but that they used, but I began to play around with my own mix of waxes, like crayons as the base for color, but then like what other waxes and oils that I want to use that would feel more moisturizing. And so I came up with a combination of waxes and oils, but also a combination of how to get the most bang out of these colors. And so I made one or two for myself and people were commenting on them. And I was like, I don't know. But then my not yet husband, he's my husband now, my boyfriend at the time was saying like, hey, you could probably sell these. I'm like, I don't know. I've tried selling stuff before. I'm not really into it, but people kept asking me about them. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll make a few more colors. And so then I, as one would do, opened up an Etsy shop and began to sell Shira P crayon lipsticks. So that was going pretty well. I enjoyed doing it. I did, again, a ton of vending, made a little bit more of a profit with that particular business. But then I got wind that Crayola had actually put out a statement that their crayons were not intended for cosmetic use. And I heavily, heavily advertised within that business that I was using, Crayola non-toxic crayons. So I didn't want to wait and get sued. Because in my mind, like that's a direct route to getting sued. I just completely like shut it down, closed the business, did not pursue that any further. The next business after that was called How to Dinner. I was coming up with all of these like simple ways to meal plan. And the more and more I talked to friends as well as just people around me, nobody was like, it was, I don't know, it was just a hurdle for a lot of people to get their meals planned and like know what to cook for dinner. And so I started releasing like a weekly meal plan for just like not any diet in particular, but just like a hey, here's what I'm doing for dinners this week, and I would release the recipes. And I even came up with like I did like an ebook. Hey there. So I wanted to tell you about how I break through creative ruts, and that is with my very own creativity journal that is available to you as well. It's called Unleashing Creativity, the Inspiration Journal, and it is jam-packed with thoughtful prompts, lots of projects, and just every single methodology that I use in order to get myself unstuck creatively. So I'm offering this to you. I hope you enjoy it. It's available on Amazon, and the link is in the description box. This ebook had, it was just a bunch of my favorite recipes. I did pictures of every step. I laid every step out, kind of like how you would get in if you bought a meal plan box, like a HelloFresh or Blue Apron or even Plated. Like you have the pictures, you have the ingredient list, and you have step-by-step instructions. That's how I laid out my ebook. That's how I laid out any kind of recipe that I put out there. And if I didn't make it up, I put the source of the recipe and whether or not, I liked it and how it did. And How to Dinner, I believe, faded out because I had some subscribers, but I couldn't figure out the monetization or enough traffic in order to make it profitable. And I got really obsessed about it. Like really, really like, how do I make this into more than just a side hustle? And that alone just took the joy out of it. And now we're up to What's She Making? And what's different here is all of those, like that whole trail to get to this part right here. Guys, there's no pressure. There's no pressure because, and here's what I started with. I just find that if I focus on the joy of making a thing without focusing on how to monetize a thing, then I am just much more happy as a creative. I just am. And I don't know what causes that within me. I have no idea like how other makers just are like, yeah, I'm going to be about this cash and make stuff on the side, or like I can't do it. I cannot make myself both maintain the joy of making and focus on monetization at the same time. Like I can put a thing out there and put a price tag on it, but I cannot focus on pushing it, marketing it, like really, really overbearing. Because you know what? Like none of these ideas that I had were really bad ideas. It's just that I did not hold on to them long enough for them to see monetary success because I would become too focused on monetary success. And if you are a maker out there, if you're an artist out there right now, I feel like you know the struggle of doing that. Like you have a genuine love, like making and creativity come out of here. Like it comes out of the heart. And you have a genuine love for what you're doing, a genuine desire to touch people through your artwork, through your creations, through your making. For me, it's like usually I want to help people. I want to, put a product out there that people may enjoy. And so often, like it's difficult to also like take that love, take that joy, take that enjoyment and market it in such a way that that love and enjoyment also earns you a living salary. Because we're not like, well, me personally, I can't speak for all artists. A lot of us are not trying to like have a mansion and 12 butlers. We're just like want a living wage and want to do something that is life-giving and not soul-sucking. Like you get into this place where you like, okay, I gotta pay rent, so let me work a day job. But the day job sucks so much life from you that you don't have the energy, the passion, the joy, the love to also create. But just having the energy, passion, and love of creating is a lot of times not enough to also make a living wage. So it's hard. It's a hard balance to be able to find the two. I know some artists that are successful, but it's not because they have a love for what they make anymore. It's because they had to focus on marketing and planning and making money, and the joy of creativity is lost in that. So I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know, how do you keep the joy and make a living wage at the same time? I would love to discuss it more in the comments. If you have experience with this, please share it. If you are a maker that's trying to like strike that balance of here it is, I am, making and I'm creating and making money at the same time, and this is how I do it. Please tell us your secrets. Because it's not an easy balance to make. And like I said, for me, with What She Making and the What She Making podcast, guys, I'm just focused on like having these conversations with you guys as other artists. I'm focused on let me put out some courses and resources that I think would be useful, but there is zero parts of me that can focus on how can I best market this so that I make a living wage. All parts are like, hey, I hope this can help somebody. Let me make sure the people that I think it can help can see it. But that's about it. I am not looking at money and analytics because it throws my focus off too much and it takes the joy away. So let me hear from you in the comments. Do you struggle here? What do you think? Thanks for listening.